Hey, thinking about learning how to play bass? Let's go through some of the tips I think it might help you make your decision and some things you should be aware of. Hey, all right, let's try this again. This is attempt number 3. I seem to be having these problems with my recording equipment. I have a new PC, I have a new camera, I have, new microphone, new everything. And for some reason, I keep getting frame drops or I keep getting any kind of freezing on OBS. I have absolutely no idea what's going on. I've done everything I could to troubleshoot it. So hopefully you don't get any frame drops or any freezing at this point and I can actually make it through this video. If you get a bit of freeze drops, I do apologize. I still have to try and figure out what's going on. Okay, so enough of that. So the last video I talked about the basics of what to look for when getting a guitar, what to expect, and just to give an overall understanding about what's involved with playing and the pain and all that sort of thing. So I thought this time, since I play bass as well, as you can see, I have a bass here. I thought I'd go through the same thing to some degree. Now, I don't suspect this video will be any longer than the last one. Probably even a lot shorter, to be honest, because a lot of the stuff, there's a lot of similarities in terms of these instruments. In this particular case, I have an electric bass. This is not an acoustic bass. So I decided I would go with this bass and just talk about some of the things that are the same and some are not. So to give you a brief history, as I mentioned last time, I started playing guitar when I was a teenager. And one of the things I struggled with was remembering notes on frets. So I got frustrated to the point that I thought, well, maybe I'll try bass. Now, I did hang around with a lot of friends who were musicians back at the time. And I thought, well, maybe bass will be easier. Well, it's not. It's not. It's just as hard in different ways. There's a lot of things that you have to take into account when you're learning how to play the bass. Let me just switch cameras here. All right, so what to take into account? Well, the first thing is the necks on these things are a lot longer than a guitar neck. I think it's a scaling issue just to get the proper tone frequency, as all these strings here, the top, second, third, and fourth, or in which case it's 6, 5, 4, 3 on a guitar. They don't have the 2 bottom strings that were on the guitar. Sorry, my hands are all here. So these notes are basically the same as they are on the guitar on these strings. The difference is the frequency on the notes are a lot lower. It's called an octave lower. So here's an E. As you can hear, that's pretty low. Other than that, any notes that you play on this fretboard here, they coincide with the same fret notes on the guitar. The idea with the bass is that it gives it bottom end and it makes it sound a lot more fuller. But there's also bass players have to worry about rhythm with drummers and whatnot. And as you go through it, when you're learning, you'll figure that out. You get to a point, if you're playing and you're getting good, you want to play with some guys or gals or whomever that have instruments like guitars and drums and whatnot, and you'll find that there are not very many than more than one bass player per band. So believe it or not, when you're playing in a band with multiple instruments, like a couple of guitars, drums, and keyboards, you're going to stand out. You're going to be noticed because the bottom end that comes on these things when you're playing them, without them there, you would notice an actual distinctive difference in terms of sound and fullness. So, although it may seem like it's a less important instrument, because historically a lot of bass players until recently have kind of gone by behind the scenes, and a lot of people were not really unless you were a musician, a lot of people couldn't tell you who the bass player was for what band they liked. In most cases, I'm not going to say all, but yeah, now you've got bass players out there. A couple that come to mind: Geddy Lee, of course. I'm Canadian, so Geddy Lee is always going to be the perfect bass player for me. Les Claypool from Primus, fantastic bass player. He uses a slap and pull off technique, so but he's really fast at it. I'm nowhere near that. Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm not a big fan of the band, but my God, can that guy play the bass? That is just wicked to watch him go. Bootsy Collins is an older bass player. Jaco Pastorius, I believe his name is, another great bass player. Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy. These are all really good bass players, and they all have different techniques on how they attack their instruments, which is another reason why I found it interesting to learn to play. Once I noticed the differences in terms of how they play and their contributions to the music they were playing, I became more interested and thought, you know what, I want to learn how to do that. So I picked it up, and it's been a bit of a fun journey throughout the years, but I've hit my limitation in terms of this instrument, unfortunately. But a few things to note that you should be aware of is the strings. You probably noticed by now the strings are a lot thicker. The scale on the neck is a lot longer, so there's a further reach. If you notice, I hold it the same way I hold the guitar. So I call this a strumming hand. On the guitar, it's pretty much the same thing on this hand, but I pluck fingers. I'm resting the guitar, so there's no weight down here. All the actual weight is being held here, balanced again on my leg. If you're left-handed, you would actually put it on this leg and use this hand to, no, I'm sorry, left-handed is a bit different because I'm not used to it. And then your fingering hand would be up here for left-handed. So right-handed, your fingering hand is your right hand, note playing is your left hand. Again, as you go through, you will develop that dexterity in terms of what you're actually going to do and coincide your fingers with hitting the notes. Now, the higher up on the strings you go, the lower the sound, the thicker they are. Having said that, from a guitar perspective, not while you learn this, you're not going to be playing chords. So, you don't need to worry about the tops of your fingers like I talked about in the guitar video. In this particular case, I highly recommend that you start to use this portion of your fingers to start when you're playing. Pushing there. Now, one of the things, because you're part of the rhythm section, is you're going to have to time your activating notes with the drummer, right? So it's a time signature, a time thing that you need to develop a meter. And again, that comes with practice. Now, there's a great debate within the bass player and musician industry that to this day I just cannot fathom. And you will find that it's all centered around this. Whoops, sorry. Okay. So like the guitar, you choose how you want to play. Don't let some elitist that plays with his fingers say that playing with a pick is wrong. That is not the case. The difference is, one, you're going to get a different tone. The finger approach is a lot fuller. It's a lot more muddier, where the picking one is a lot more trebly. Now, I'm not very good at actually doing the Steve Harris technique from Iron Maiden like this, and he's super fast. I can't do that. So, in comes the pick. I get speed out of that. If you're into that kind of metal, a good portion of the players, the bass players, tend to use picks. But again, it's choice. Don't let anybody tell you that you're doing it wrong. Just remember that. It's all about what you want to do with it. Now, fingering. Fingering's a tough one because, once again, I have big hands. So, a lot of the time when I'm playing down on the neck, my thumb will of course, come over around. It's a matter of comfort, right? Because I'm trying to keep, like a guitar, I'm trying to keep my wrist straight. As I go up the neck, you see how my thumb kind of disappears? And then it does that. Now, I'm kind of countering my notion of keeping it straight, but if I wanted to keep it straight, my grip would go somewhat like this. Now, that's not comfortable. It's all about being comfortable, right? So you'll find if you change your thumbing on however you want to play, whatever's comfortable to you. Now, I'll be honest with you, if you don't have larger hands and you have your thumb up here, you're going to lose some mobility here. And you don't want that to happen. Because when that happens, then you're going to be, missing time signatures and everything, and just keeping steady rhythm and whatnot going, right? Don't worry about going up the neck like this right away. Your main goal is to learn to develop where the notes are, and just keep a steady rhythm on your fingering or your pick. Easy for me to say. Your job as a bass player is not to do guitar solos. Your job is to make sure that the back end with the drums, the rhythm is there, nice and straight forward to the point. So what you want to concentrate on, one is stamina for your fingers, two, but keeping your meter going in terms of how you're attacking the strings. Now, as you get further into playing, you're going to find you're going to start doing a lot more different things where you're going to have like chords, Again, you can play like a guitar. Again, whatever's comfortable to you. It's not about, being fully within a matter of a year. You have to work to build that. There's some great videos online in terms of like learning how to attack the bass and, learning stages and whatnot. Just Google up, I apologize, I didn't search for the links, but, just Google up a bass fretboard and it'll give you all the notes, where they are, everything here. You have simple things like octaves, right? Same note, different frequency. Same thing on a guitar. These are fifths. I don't even want to go into that. Sorry. That's a little too much. But yeah, take your time and learn it and just have fun with it. It's an instrument that as time goes by, if you pick it up, you'll become very close with it and you really enjoy playing it. And the more you learn, the more fun it becomes. Now, buying your first bass, this is a tough one. I did some searching before I made the video, and I'll be honest with you, the bass packs that are out there with the basses and the amps, they're up in the $500 range. I do not recommend buying a combo unit like that. Unless you're really serious, because some people that try to play this instrument tend to give it, it gets a little rough in the beginning and they kind of lose motivation for learning. So, I highly recommend Facebook Marketplace. You can get a really cheap bass, beginner bass. Again, don't go with one of these. I got this because it was on consignment. It was $400 used. This is about a $700 or $800 bass. Don't go with that. I've been playing long enough that I think I wanted one of these at this point. Facebook Marketplace, great place to find beginner basses. You can get them for $100, maybe $150. You also want to think about, if you're going to go with an electric bass, you want to get a small amp. You don't need a stack. You don't need to invest in a big Marshall stack or a big Ampeg stack for the bass, because truth be told, the amount of bottom end when you're playing this on an amp is going to just rumble things the louder it is. And if you have neighbors or wife, you're probably going to hear about it in the end. So, just stick to a practice type style amp like I have over here. Just a little PV amp, but that's a guitar amp. You can pick up a guitar bass amp like this does both. But because it's small, you're not going to get a lot of bottom end out of the sound coming out of the amp. So yeah, just stick at it. If you have a guitar and you wanted to get into the bass, you can still use the tuner. This thing clips on, and I didn't mention it in the last video, that it literally picks up the vibrations of the strings. The strings are tuned exactly the same as they are on a guitar. Same bottom four, top. Let's say I call them top. I don't want to confuse you, but because I'm looking down at it, but these are the same notes and they tune exactly the same way as they do on the guitar. The tuners are a little more heftier, as you can see. You know, the strings are thicker, so the tuners have to be a bit stronger. You know, and yeah, it's you know, you'll need a cable for an amp and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's really just about learning and having fun. I spent probably 5 years every day playing guitar and bass for a long time, just practicing. And they really are, as a guitar player, I have to put on a different hat when I play the bass, because I'm not there to play chords and play great melodies. I'm there as a bass player to make sure that I keep time and I keep the bottom end where it needs to be from within the song and the band, right? So that's it. That's all I have this week. Thanks for coming by. And, you know, hopefully I'll get another video next week, barring any of these technical issues. And I keep looking over at my studio software, OBS, and it hasn't frozen yet or had any frame rate drops. So, good job. Okay, everybody. I'll see you next time, and thanks for stopping by.